So Lent is coming up, starts on Wednesday, Ash Wednesday. What are you going to do for Lent? You always have three choices. You can, of course, just ignore it. People do. You can, okay, I'll do something for Lent, and then you can pick something, like you'll give up something you would never do anyway. Like in my case, giving up Brussels sprouts. Or, of course, you can take it seriously, and you can say, well, this is an opportunity. The whole church, I got other people who are also doing something. Maybe I'll take something on. And this gospel reading, maybe it's offering us three questions, something to consider for ourselves for Lent. And so let's take a look at them. Jesus, he does use these great little images. Can a blind man be a guide to a blind man? You'd appreciate how silly that is, right? Blind person can't see, and they're being guided by somebody else who can't see. What a silly image. But the question then for us is, who's guiding us? You and I, who are we letting guide us? Because once you answer that question, then you can ask the question, are they blind? Because is it not possible, parents, you'd appreciate this, we are forever telling teens, you be careful about who you're hanging out with. You be careful about your friends, who you pick, because they're going to guide you. And maybe you've had personal experience with this, where you've realized that your son, your daughter was being guided by somebody who was blind. Literally, they were taking your son, daughter, down the wrong path. We just need to remind ourselves as adults, it happens to us too. If you'll forgive me, this one example, there are people, of course, that they live for news. And that typically means that they have a news station they watch all the time. That's their guide. And mind you, I'm not picking sides here. I'm just suggesting that's their guide. That is the organization, the individuals that are informing them and how they look at the world. And my question is, are they blind? Because if they are, they're just leading you into a pit. And I wouldn't be so quick just to say, oh, no, they're not blind, they're perfectly fine. Because you're only saying that because you agree with them. I think you have to be careful about this. I think all of us, no matter who it is, I think we have to ask ourselves, who is actually influencing my life? Who is guiding me? And then once we get that answer, just be honest and ask the second question, they know where they're going? Because a lot of guides in our world have no idea. They're blind. And if they're blind, it's not going to end well for us. What about the second one, the second image? I don't know if you caught the humor in it. It's funny. Jesus says, why would you look and say to your brother, can I get that little speck out of your eye? Can I help you with that? I'd love to help you with that. When you have a beam in your own eye. The word that's used for beam, you need to think of like the main rafter going across a house on which the whole roof is built. Like we're talking a beam, a log of wood, a big thing. And what a funny juxtaposition. You get this big beam sticking out of your eye and you're going like, let me help you with that little splinter, I can do that. Just completely oblivious to your own huge fault. I'll tell you, this question is not an easy one, because the reason that's funny, the reason that image sort of brings up something is that you and I have probably seen it. We've probably seen it in other people. People have these great faults and they're so picky with other people, but we never see that in ourselves. I was thinking this week, I cannot remember of a single person during my whole life who ever told me a story about being like that and overcoming it. I just don't know a story. I don't have one in my own life, and I probably should have one, because I suspect, like most people, maybe this is in my life. Maybe there is some faults of mine that I'm completely dismissing. Oh, it's not a big thing, but I'm real quick to point out other people's faults. And so maybe it's just a question as you pursue this, if you want to in Lent, you just say, all right, here's what I'm going to do. Every time I nitpick or every time I'm critical about somebody else, I'm going to pause and ask myself, do I do that? In other words, turn the focus on myself a little bit, because maybe I'm not as blameless in some of these areas as I think. The third image has to, trees and fruit. And again, it's just really kind of a neat image Jesus uses. If you've got a good tree, would you expect rotten fruit to come up on it? Of course not. And if you had a rotten tree, would you expect really good fruit to come out of it? No. Good trees give you good fruit, bad trees give you bad fruit. And so the question is, what kind of fruit are you and I producing in our lives? And again, it's not an easy question. You have to be willing to uncover the fact that, well, maybe not all the fruit I produce is good. In other words, you have to get past a step. Like, people will say, like, well, I pray a rosary every day. Well, that's terrific, of course. That's wonderful that you take the time to pray, and certainly that you pray a rosary. That's terrific. But Jesus' question is, so? What does that do? What does that do for you? Because you spend this time in prayer, does that increase your sense of joy and love? Or you started praying the rosary every day and now you're more compassionate to others, you are more empathetic to others, you've drawn closer to God? Like, what is the fruit of this? Because if you can't name it, you got to wonder, well, wait, is there something else going on? Do I have just lots of hatred in me, and somehow, I'm trying to say a rosary, but what's coming out is hatred? It's another way, of course, of answering this question. You just remind yourself when you get bumped in life, someone treats you badly, someone cuts you off in traffic, things don't go well at home or at work or whatever it is. What comes out of you? What comes out of you? Because if you're like, well, I'm just always angry. Well, I guess anger's in you. And that's the fruit you're producing. 3 questions. You could come up with, if you sat down and thought about it, you could come up with a dozen easily. And I offer them, again, just really as a way to get you started in Lent. I hope you'll do something with Lent. Really just try something, no matter what it is, whether you want to add something, do some fasting, whether from food or other material things, whatever it is, I hope that you will do something. So, some of you know I just celebrated a birthday, and, so I'm looking back. Birthdays are always those moments where you look back over your life a little bit. So I'm looking back, and in terms of Lent, even as a good Protestant kid, I took Lent pretty seriously. But he didn't always do that. Some Lents came and go. Who cared? But the Lents I remember, the good ones, the ones that mattered to my spiritual life, and even more than that, the Lents that mattered to me personally, really made me a better person. Those are the ones where I took full advantage of it. Did crazy stuff sometimes. I gave up a car for Lent one time. Rode my bike everywhere. It was terrific. It was absolutely amazing. But stuff like that, I don't know. I just encourage you to do something. Try something. Take it seriously. You'll get to Easter, and then you can look back and go like, wow, I think I'm changed a little bit. I'm giving better fruits. I'm a little more aware of what's driving my life. I'm a little more aware of who's influencing me. And maybe I'm not quite as critical because I know I've got my own faults and I need to be careful about that. So, to a good Lent, I wish you God's blessing.